And it looks like everybody has logged in instead of calling in, which is good because if you called in, you can't see the slides, which is unfortunate. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the NIGP Lunch and Learn PCard Programs. Uh, just wanted to let y'all know that if you have any questions or concerns during the presentation, go ahead and put them in the chat. My name is Lisa Tran, and I will be the host today and also monitoring the chat for any questions or concerns. And I will also do my best to try to summarize some kind of takeaways towards the end. But before we get started, please do your best to let us know where you're connecting from, your title, and what's the current weather in your neighborhood. We also want to make sure that, again, you get credit for participating in these lunch and learn presentations. It's a really great way to kind of either A, learn something new, or B, brush up on something that you already know, but you might learn a couple new tips and tricks for a old practice, right? So with us today, we have wonderful presenters from Tacoma Public Schools, Cheri Estrada, Director of Purchasing, and Lori Adams, as a PCard Administrator. Next slide, please. So before we get started, I want to let y'all know that we have some great events coming up. So on June 13th, we have the Emerging Professional Roundtable. And unfortunately, July and August, there will not be any lunch and learn meetings. I know you're probably as brokenhearted as I am, but it's good to take a break every now and then. But trust me, we'll come up with some really, really good stuff starting in September. And then we have on July 17th, NIGP new member orientation. So if you are a new member, uh, congrats on being here with us. And we can't wait to see you then. And then July 23rd, NIGP sailing the 7 seas to successful scope of work design. Oh, sailing the 7 seas to successful scope. Try saying that 10 times fast. And then on August 25th and 28th, NIGP Forum. So we have a virtual and in-person option, but the in-person option is in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I heard North Carolina is very pretty during that time of year. So if you can make it out, go ahead and do so. And if you have any additional meeting and registration, if you want additional meeting and registration information, it can be found at our website at www.washingtonnigp.org. So first things first, please do your best to mute yourself and enjoy the presentation. Check your participant name to full name because we want to make sure that you get credit for being here. You can right click on your video and choose to rename yourself. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, I'm monitoring the chat, so you can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand, and then we'll call on you to read your question from the chat. So without further ado, here is the PCard presentation.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Cheri Estrada. I am the Director of Procurement for Tacoma Public Schools, and we are going to be talking today about how to manage a successful PCard program and just giving you guys some tips and tricks on what works best for our district. And with me, I have Lori Adams, who is a buyer and our dedicated PCard administrator for our program. So
Hello.
again, and it's her birthday. So I'm
Oh,
just going to slightly embarrass her and
oh, thank you.
wish her a happy birthday.
Do you want us to sing, Cheri?
Yes, you can sing, Maya. Did you take your lozenges?
I did not take my lozenges. Just give me a second.
Okay. So she's here today doing this with us. So I appreciate that with her. So, okay, we will move forward. Basically, for our program, one of the best things and tips I can give you right off the bat is always being willing to change and not be set in the way it is. That's the thing that's worked so great to make our program successful in a district our size. And so I just recommend that for everybody. Today, these are just some of our discussion points. We're going to kind of present best practices, what we do here. Again, ask questions. We would like this to be interactive. If you want to stop me at any time, I'll try to pause throughout, make sure we're fielding questions from our lens and our point of view. But again, the the life cycle of a PCard program is just constantly changing. We're always looking at new ways to update ourselves, just double check in what's going good, what's not working, and constantly just revisiting the different aspects that we kind of have here, like policies or controls, training, account management and maintenance, roles and responsibilities. Those are just some basic ones that you should always check. Here's a brief current overview of our program. We're the third largest school district in the state of Washington. We also have a dedicated, like I said, Lori is our dedicated PCard administrator, and she is certified through CPCP. And that's just something that I really highly recommend if available, or that you guys can have, is having that dedicated person. It really helps to make the program successful. We have the 6th highest spend in Washington State. We continue to grow our rebate. Last year, it was only $380,000. While that's a little lower than some previous years, it's still, again, great money back for our students on money that we were already spending, in a way to just put back into your program. And our PCard program is administered by our purchasing office. It is not administered by our finance department or accounts payable. Okay. One of the first things that you kind of need to do to have a successful program, if you don't already have one, or if you're wanting to maybe increase your program or bring it to the next level, is making sure that you have policies in place that allow you to use P cards and that type of spend, or what we call a payment method. P cards for us is not a procurement method, but it's a payment method only. If you don't have one, if you're a school district, you could use the WASDA model policy. And I'm sure for like counties or cities or other agencies, even maybe the ports, you guys have some other model policies that you potentially could look at to review and kind of help you draft your regulations around that. One of the things that we found was critical to our program is having a PCard MOU, which is just a memorandum of understanding for each of the users. This allows them to kind of get a quick overview of what's acceptable of the program, what's expected of them, what's allowable, what's not allowable, and they're signing it. They're agreeing to it. Ours is automated, but something I highly recommend you have. We have a PCard manual. It's updated yearly. It's visible. It's constantly posted on the website. It's referenced and other things. So that's really important to have in place. An application process or some way for people to get cards that's trackable, monitorable, and has an approval process flow to it is really important as well. And this ensures compliance. It ensures a way to track who authorized somebody to have a card. Are they a person who can authorize somebody to have a card and whatnot? And again, it's something that the auditors can look at and track that you had some compliance piece there and double tracking. A new thing that we implemented, I don't know, I'm not going to remember, Lori, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. We got from
it's been at
another
least 6.
Okay, we got it from another PCard program, attending some webinars and seminars like this, was a PCard delegation form. And this is where you kind of allow people to have a different limit set on their card. And it's only for a certain duration, for a certain amount. And it allows them to kind of not circumvent, but it's another way to speed up the process of buying for certain people at certain levels, depending on what they need. And the great thing about the delegation form was it allowed us to track and monitor things easier, and it has to be renewed every year. So people can lose it, or a BRC, which is what we call somebody who's responsible for the budget or a specific account code, can rescind it at any time. And so that's been really helpful in making our program successful, in the fact that it just made it easier for some people to spend a little quicker, who had some authority and responsibility, but then also allowed some double checks to keep happening within the program as we moved forward. Are there any questions so far? Doing okay? Okay. Again, there's always time for, go
There
ahead.
is one. Any advice on where we could find a great example of a PCard MOU to model our own after?
Oh, sure. I can post all of that. I don't know if it's easier to just post it to the website, or if you want to email me directly, and Lori and I can send you guys anything that we have. No problem. We'll send it in Word as well, so you don't have to retype it. I also know, and Lori might have a plug for this, on the website for PCards.
The
Do they have forms?
NAPCP website is a good help. Actually, they're now called the IOCP, but that's a good place to check for any kind of examples on manuals and different forms and everything.
Yeah. But like I said, anything that we talk about today, and maybe I'll try to show some examples of ours, we are more than willing to share. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Next is really outlining some of those roles and responsibilities. And again, these are the ones that we use as a school district. We've revised them over the years, and they need to fit your program. So none of this is really like a one size fits all, as we all know in procurement, right? We take tidbits here and there and make it work. One of the things, though, that we've really ensured to make this work is we've used any kind of audits that we've gotten. We've used best practice, white papers, talking with other PCard programs, other school districts, the city. They're a great resource for us too. The city of Tacoma has an amazing PCard program, to find out what those key roles and responsibilities should be. And then, like I said, again, being willing to just constantly relook at them, make sure they still fit your practices, your policy, what's going on, and doing that. So we have card holders, then we have reconcilers, we have approvers, and then we have one administrator, which is Lori. And again, something that I feel over the years, when I got hired in Tacoma, I started as the PCard administrator 16 years ago. And I think that it really makes a difference when you have that dedicated support person to really help grow this program. Now, don't get me wrong, Lori has tons of other job responsibilities, but having a dedicated person to this program really helps ensure compliance, just usability, these constant checks and things like that. We found that these four are the most commonly used. They could potentially have a different name. Your program might call them something different right now. But again, just make sure that you have them fit your agency and your organizational structure. You might have extras that even we don't have. So we also have maybe a fifth one that we didn't add on here that is used. It would be a user, right? So they're a PCard user. A teacher, for example, would be a PCard user. They don't have one in their name. They do have an MOU on file that says they can use it. They did do the pre-approval process with their principal to be able to spend money for a legitimate purchase. They use the card, and then it goes back to that reconciler. So that would actually be a fifth one that we do have.
And it's important that these are defined in your manual too, exactly what your roles and responsibilities are and what they're the definitions are and what they need to abide by.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Lori. Okay. The next thing is having controls set in place, and they're vital to making your program successful, and it's important to have them written down. Like Lori was mentioning, all of these things are well defined in our PCard manual that is posted and provided to users yearly. When you're creating your controls, we found it very important to talk with our internal auditor. We're very fortunate to have one. We talked with our finance department and our CFO when we were creating these controls and some of the different spend limits to ensure that they aligned not only with PCard, but with the rest of the district policy and regulations that were written out there for different levels of signing authority and spending authority. Having that great team of stakeholders really makes it fun and exciting to like have a team to go to have people to bounce ideas off of and who are invested in this program with you. That's something that we've really found works great, is when you have those outside stakeholders who want to see this program be successful as well, and who provide you buy-in, who help provide you a different lens in setting up these controls and understanding how it works. And then they're there to help support you when you're enforcing the controls, such as the internal auditor for us. Using some of these controls has been challenging to say, but also sometimes changing some of them has been an improvement based on what the auditor said. So our spend limits, we have per transaction limits and per monthly limits. And those are based on if it's an elementary school, a middle school, high school, or department. It's based on if it's travel or regular. So those have different limits. Some departments, like planning construction, they have a larger limit. They spend way more for permits, and they have a special card for that. So there's always those exceptions that you can set up. Another control we have that's been fantastic when we moved to it was an electronic PCard approval form. Our district requires pre-approval for everything. And so by making this form online, automated, a process flow that goes back and forth, that you can request changes, resubmit, send along, drastically changed our program and buy-in from people being able to quickly submit the form. Approvers could do it on the fly. They didn't have to be at their desk waiting for a piece of paper, so that principal or that administrator could be at a different meeting, but get the form, look at it on his computer, and approve it forward. It also maintains all our receipts, the quotes, and it has an auditable function that we can give the auditors access as audit, and they can go in and check anything that they need, but it's one centralized housing location. We have a missing receipt affidavit. The PCard application, of course, requires several signatures, multiple people. The same person requesting the card can never be the same person signing for the card. And that's just an internal control to ensure that somebody else knows who has this card and what could be spent on it. That came from a best practice in an audit finding from a different school district who didn't have that. That's also electronic for us. These are all automated forms for us that are housed and tracked in a system. And ensuring that people understand what they can purchase and cannot purchase on a PCard. That's the worst thing, is having to pay the PCard police or the purchasing police when you have these controls set in place. So if you've done a good job of your MOU, listing out the quick cans and cannots, having that manual that they can reference, and offering continual training will really ensure that you have a good program, that people understand what's acceptable on the PCard and what's not. And as there's a note here, again, making sure all of this is very detailed and lined out in your manual will help your program be successful. Are there any other questions right now?
None that I can see in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so training. Training is another great way to make people aware of your program, make sure they understand how to use your program, And again, it's very critical for those end users, those people who maybe aren't always at their desk or always available to read a manual thoroughly, providing that ongoing training and providing a variety of training options with continual training sessions, allows people to grow confidence in your program and in you, that you're there to support them. And I think that's another thing that Tacoma's done a great job of, is we really emphasize that we're there to support the end users and those PCard holders in their training and in the use of their PCard, because we want it to be successful, because ultimately a successful program, one, keeps it going, two, increases the rebate, which just goes back to our students to help benefit them during the school year. Another thing to do that Lori does an awesome job with is providing ongoing support. And that ongoing support could be something as simple as a yearly quiz, just to have them double check in, make sure they know any new rules that have changed or they're on top of it. It could be a survey to help determine maybe what people are still struggling with. Where do they still have questions? What's going good? What would they like to see changed? It's always important to get that buy-in from those stakeholders, because again, if those end users don't enjoy your program or find it too cumbersome, they're not going to use it, and then it won't be successful. Also, we offer specific tailored training to the individual user, whether that means going out on site. Lori does a lot of site visits to our end users and the administrators to make sure they understand what's required of them, what's required of their staff. If they have specific questions, they can give her a call, they can email her. She's always there to help. And so again, just offering that ongoing training and support. You might have we have something that's a yearly training conference for all coming back to school. It's a great time. Lori always gives 1 or 2 sessions on PCards, any updates, any changes, any new users. So that's a great way too to get out there. And just letting them know that the training doesn't have to be scheduled. They could just quickly call and ask a question. I know Lori probably gets, 5 or 6 a day, just, hey, I can't do this, or I forgot about this, or what
Or
about
maybe
that?
more than that, maybe more than 5 or 6.
Okay. Yeah. I was trying to be like, they're not needy. Our teachers are needy. If you guys have ever dealt with teachers, they're very needy. And they also are in a very short time frame, right? Like they only have a really quick planning period, or I got 6 phone calls yesterday from a teacher in the span of like 15 minutes dealing with some PCard stuff.
Yeah.
So, it's just really being there to support them and to really know that they just want to learn and they want to do it right. And them knowing that you're there for them really gives them confidence. And we've learned back from surveys that when they have that confidence, then they're more likely to use the PCard, and they're more likely to do it correctly and make sure that, they've completed the process, because they want to keep using the PCard and not lose their benefits. That's also something that could happen. Okay. Reconciliation. I think this is the biggest one. The biggest topic that I've had recently at WASBO is how to enforce reconciliation. How do you get people to comply with reconciliation? And I'm not going to be here to tell you that we are 100% perfect on this. We are not. It is a constant moving target. Some months are better than others. Some years are better than others. But Lori does an amazing job of communicating with people. And something that she's done differently than I ever did was she communicates with them weekly. She sends them little reminders or tips or tricks about, maybe a current issue that's going on that she's heard from a few of people who've called in for her. She's always emphasizing the due dates. She's also sends out a calendar reminder at the beginning of the year, like here's all the PCard due dates for the year up front on a calendar marked for you. So they know that. It really helps that they know that they can call and get help with reconciliation no matter what. Lori also is a friendly voice. She's never harsh or mean to them. And I think that helps them when they know, hey, I forgot to reconcile, or, oh, I'm struggling, or, they know they can call her and she's going to be very kind and really respond to them. But one thing I do have to say is compliance. When people are not complying properly, if they're constantly not reconciling or they've misused the PCard, really being strong from the get-go in the beginning and having some of those compliance templates written up, and holding people accountable from the beginning, even if they're a kind person, even if you know it was a mistake, and you really can be empathetic to them of their current situation of why it didn't happen, but still holding them accountable and writing that really gentle compliance memo like, hey, we understand, but moving forward, this is going to happen, and here's just your notice for the file. Really staying consistent with that has helped our program be successful. People know that we are going to send them that memo and they don't want it. They know that it's going to be in their file, and after a certain amount of compliance memos, they lose privileges for 30 days. They might lose privileges for 60 days. And I have revoked a few cards for over a year. So just being sure that you're straightforward with that, you hold everybody accountable to the same standard, will ensure your program is successful. Also, there's some responsibility on that PCard administrator. And I feel very fortunate that Tacoma has one that does such a great job. But Lori always ensures that accounting is in our reconciliation system on US Bank. We do an online reconciliation right in the system. It pays it correctly. It uploads, correctly to get paid. But making sure that she's there to support them and get any new accounting put in. Making sure that she can help with tax questions if there's anything like that. She assists with all the kind of returns or disputes or fraud cards or anything like that. So she's always right there to deal with that. Is there anything else, Lori, that you think I missed on this piece?
Before you hop over to Lori,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
yep,
Just
go
wanted
ahead.
to let you know that there's
No.
like a couple questions in the chat.
Okay.
So
Oh yeah.
go ahead, Lori. I'll just
Oh,
letting
no,
you know.
I was just going to say we have a little bit more in the next slide that has a little bit more on the,
Okay.
The account administration. But
Oh.
yeah, that's a lot of the things that I deal with on a daily basis.
Okay. We'll take the questions.
Sure. So first question is, what is your set threshold for PCard limits, and do you have a separate travel card? So their county issues like separate PCards and travel cards as they're looking at paring the program down to make it potentially making it maybe one card instead of two. But
Yes.
What's your thoughts?
We do both. We still have travel cards, but they're technically a PCard, just with the word travel on them. And our travel cards have higher limits on them because they're meant for hotel and air. We don't put airfare in there, so sorry. So hotel registration for multiple people, because we send teachers or groups of kids to go. The MCC codes that are open on that card are different. So sometimes it's good to have separate ones. I don't know that it much matters other than the limit. And having always not wanting to have cards with super high limits open and available for fraud is really what it comes down to. We have pared down our travel cards though. So schools used to have 2 or 3, and now I think most of them just have 1. But that part I think would really depend on if you really want 2 cards out there or multiple cards for each person. As long as they're doing the proper process for each, if you have a different travel reconciliation than you do for PCard, being sure that they follow and manage that. So sometimes that's helpful. Like anytime somebody uses a travel card for us, they have to have a travel authorization, whether they're taking students or themselves. And so Lori reconciles that, or we're looking through that reconciliation. We know any card on this they need a TA put into that memo field, and there's not one. So sometimes there's easier reconciliation that way, but there are more cards to manage. Our limit, everybody's standard per I'll do standards. Everybody's standard per transaction is $999. We do have a process for them to request an increase at the exact same time that they're requesting their approval to use the card. So that process is very smooth and simple. But their monthly limits are all different.
Yeah.
Remind me what they are, Lori.
Elementary school is $5,000 per month. Middle school is $7,000, and then high school and department is $10,000. And then we do have some other departments that, like you mentioned, planning and construction, that they need higher limits. So we do have some departments that have different limits.
Yeah, we call those special limit cards, and there is an application process for that they request a special limit, and it takes an additional signature to get that card. So does that kind of answer your questions, or did you have more?
There's one more question, but that did answer the initial question. So thank you so much for that. This next question is, if you revoke a card from an individual, are there circumstances for which you would allow an individual to hold a card again in the future? Like, is there some kind of uh, restorative justice in a way, like they learn their lesson and now they get to have the card back? I think you mentioned something earlier about temporarily revoking access for about like maybe 30 days, 60 days to a year, but has there ever been a situation where it's like they've gone the path of no return at that point and now they're trying to appeal?
Yes. Yes and no. It's only happened once. So the temporary suspensions have happened a little more often, where it's just like 30 days, they lost their privileges and then they get them back. That is typically what we do. We don't typically have to do anything more than that. They learn their lesson at that point because life becomes very difficult. Although we also do all the purchase orders in our district here in our office, it's still just a little more difficult for them to buy, right? They can't run to the Walmart or the Target. I have, in my experience of 16 years, only revoked one person's privileges. At that point, it was indefinitely for blatant misuse and fraud on the PCard. About 5 years after they didn't have one, and they're still an employee here, they petitioned to their principal, who petitioned to their level director, who petitioned to the assistant superintendent that they get their PCard back. And I said, okay. But it also came with a letter from the assistant superintendent of basically like, you get one and done. So if you mess up at all with this card one time, you will never, ever get them back. And so far, that particular person has very much towed the line, and we have had no more issues. So I don't know that per se that we really have an actual policy, because it's only happened once for one person, one card. Otherwise, normally your 30-day temporary suspension really gets the point across. And most people want to comply, right? Let's be honest. People typically are not intentionally trying to do something wrong. They really want to learn and understand. And that's why we really emphasize the training and the working with them. And it normally takes 2 or 3 compliance memos before we'll even temporarily suspend for 30 days. But if it's the same issue over and over, like, okay, this week you did it, next week you did it, like clearly you're not learning your lesson, or you just don't care at that point. Those are the people who get their card suspended for 30 days.
I think we're really lucky. We don't have a lot of issues, a lot of compliance issues. And ongoing, you're right, as soon as they get that first email or memo, they're usually horrified and they want to fix it right away. So
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think that answers that last question, and I don't see any other questions in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Okay, so on to account management and maintenance. Lori's role and responsibility, and not only role and responsibility, but kind of just high level. Having this person, again, I can't emphasize it enough. Really having that dedicated person has made our program very successful. I know when this is what I did and I really focused in on it. I know the city of Tacoma has a dedicated person, Jolene. She's amazing. I took over for her 16 years ago when she went to the city, and she's really built their card program up and stuff. And she'll emphasize enough that having that person in that role to really kind of foster it and grow it and really make it into what it is really is helpful. If you don't have that person, but maybe you have a team willing to kind of do it, anything that can really get your program up and going, and having people dedicated to making it work will be successful. She works really hard communicating with people, making sure she's staying on top of any notices or anything she gets from the bank, any notices she gets from HR or from staff saying, hey, this person's retired, or, we need to close the card down, or we lost the card, there might be fraud on the card. Really making sure that you're staying on top of those, and those take priority over some of your other things helps your program be successful, because then it reduces the amount of fraud you have. It might reduce any kind of misuse, or the card getting in the wrong hands, or somebody forgetting that it's in a drawer somewhere and we didn't cancel it. We have the ability, because we have an online reconciliation system through US Bank and an online monitoring system, she can go in and check real time things. What she does in that system is updated immediately or done right away. So that helps people if they're struggling with a decline. Maybe they're putting in the wrong zip code. That's common. Or they forgot to ask for an increase. She can go in and check those things real time and see what's going on and immediately answer them and correct it. And then in 5 minutes, they can go and use the card again. So that makes it really important to have that person who's able to do that. And then also using that online system. I'm not sure everyone's different PCard program. If you currently have one, maybe you do paper reconciliation, maybe you do online with us, and maybe you use the state contract and use US Bank. I'm not really sure there, but I highly recommend getting one that is online and does allow for that real-time interaction with your administrator and the bank and working with those cardholders. Also, just she spends a lot of time reviewing forms for compliance, making sure that they're accurate, that it meets what it should be, and passing it along. She's also responsible for generating the final reconciliation monthly report that goes to finance. Our two systems don't talk to each other. So she downloads, and then finance does an upload to get it paid. But she's responsible for that. And then again, just any kind of support and assistance as needed. The next thing that's really important that we work on each year is just optimizing. Finding ways to enhance your PCard, to put more spend on your PCard, more payments on your PCard, because ultimately getting that rebate back is wonderful. Who doesn't want more money? Especially in these tight budget times right now. I know a few other agencies I was on a call with previous this week, they're also in very tight budget times. So why not have a revenue source coming back to you just for spending the money you're already going to be spending anyway? You already have to pay that bill, so might as well pay for it on the PCard. So something we've done is we pay as many POs that we can with PCard, because again, PCard is just a payment method, not a procurement method. So we've done the procurement properly. We've got the PO in place. We pay it with PCard and close it out. AP does this a lot. Another way too is to reconcile weekly, reconcile, bi-monthly, anything to help that incentive or file turn, which normally is an incentive from the bank to get paid faster, and then you get a bigger rebate on that. That's something you can work through with your AP or finance team. Sometimes in our bids and RFPs, we add PCard as a requirement with no fee. So we're fairly successful with that. It just depends on what it is, and we kind of have to weigh if we think they might try to add that fee percentage into the product that we're getting or not. But that's another way that we've been successful in growing our PCard program, is doing that more and more. And then just reminding people that using the PCard is a way to get spend and rebate back for the students. And so if you have the option to use the PCard and it makes sense, then why not? Ultimately, it still costs less to process a PCard transaction than it does a PO. And then some organizations can use it for maybe construction spend. We're looking into that a little more, but currently the only construction related spend we do is just permitting through the city of Tacoma that we put on our card. But otherwise all our construction spend is still POs, but some agencies, maybe you're allowed that. That's a great way to increase your PCard spend and optimize your program, and just get people more familiar with it, get it out there, using it. So, and then again, even with our budgets being down, we're still searching ways to use the PCard and really maximize that spend, because we have to spend the money anyways. We've found some of our very large service providers who provide us with special needs services for our students are willing to take our PCard. And so over the years, we've been able to pay them, on an average about $2 million on the PCard. And so that really helps with some of our spend. And again, AP is paying that invoice with the PCard connected to that PO. So it kind of turns a full circle.
Majority of our technology spend is all on PCards.
So true.
which is a big part of our spend.
Yes. That is one bid that we always put in for technology, that it has to be on the P card.
Mhm.
So there's a question in the chat that
Mhm.
says, are you still using declining balance cards for LAP, Head Start, etc.?
Somebody clearly knows our program very well.
Yeah.
No. Those were here when I first started and maybe lasted another year, and we no longer need them. The way we have revamped the program and the grant spending and budget monitoring, they're still available. There's still something you can do. That functionality still exists within the program, but we do not use it anymore. We have found that using our PCard pre-approval process and having the budget tech monitor that way and having spend limits put on has changed the way that we need to use those declining balance cards. So we do not use them anymore.
Awesome, thank you. And I also have a question.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when it comes to the rebate program, does the money go back to the department or to the pot of money that the division or whoever spent it, or does it go back into the general fund and then it's a free for all for everyone?
So when I first, that's kind of a loaded question for us, but it does go back more generally. We never give it back to the exact department because we tell them that technology and SPED would take all their money anyway. So they really wouldn't get much of the rebate. But what happened was our CFO and board made a collective decision that we would use this money to help fund middle school athletics. So it was voted upon and agreed that that is where the rebate would go. So it goes back into a special account, and then that money is dispersed to help fund that particular program. And everybody knows that, and we still get very good buy-in with it because ultimately it's improving a program for the students and something that's very, important to them in athletics. So that's where our goes. I'm sure for any program, you guys could kind of divvy it out. I have not yet heard of anybody who goes to specific departments, but I'm sure they do. It would just be a lot more to track, right? Because
Yeah.
you'd have to track spend and then the percentage rate and the rebate.
Right.
Gotcha. So it just back to the whole purchasing battle cry. It depends.
Yes,
Mileage may vary
absolutely.
depending on organization, right? And so
Yes. Absolutely. Oh, so true, Lisa. And like I said, for us, for TPS, it's worked, right? Like we've gotten some great, I'll go to the next slide. We've gotten some great buy-in from our key stakeholders and our end users who are here all supporting, students and middle school athletics. And, sometimes it funds some other programs, extracurricular things for the students. And so for there, I feel very lucky and fortunate that it does do that. It doesn't mean that every year we don't still have that same question. Somebody at least asks once a year, can they get the rebate money back? But for us, it's no different than the Amazon rebate or the Costco rebate or, any other vendor's rebate that we might get back. It all just goes into a predetermined pool to support the students.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. And then I think the last question here is, what is your email so we can get a copy of your policies and manuals and all the other wonderful things that you happen to have?
Absolutely. Okay. So I will spell it out. It's C for Charlie, E for Edward, S for Sam, T for Tom, R for radio, A for David, A for Alpha, D for David. So C Estrada. It's not my full last name. And this is the long part, Tacoma.k12.wa.us. So if you see my name on my little thing, so it's my first initial, my last name minus the last A, and then at Tacoma.k12.wa.us.
There, I see somebody's put it in the chat too, so that's great.
I guess I could have typed that. Yeah.
Nice. No, it's all good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other questions or concerns from y'all?
Did you learn something? Are you excited about PCards? Terrified? Think we're crazy?
I mean, we could do a quiz. I I took some notes. Just to yes to all of the above.
I suspect they're talking about more than just P cards there.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, gotcha.
But ultimately, thank you guys for your time. We really hope that you gain some valuable little nuggets or insights. Again, we're always here to take questions, or if you have any documents you want, please email us. But ultimately, hopefully this was helpful. And you get a PCard program if you don't have one, or if you have one, you are using it to its fullest benefit, because they are great.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you
let
so
it-
much for the presentation. It was wonderful, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you. Let
So
us know if we can do anything to help.
awesome. I learned a few things. Let's see. In my little notes here, I got the 4 roles and responsibilities here. You have card holders, reconcilers, approvers, and one amazing administrator. And again, depending on the organization, mileage may vary, right? And so it's good to
Mhm.
have these kinds of checks and balances just to make sure that your P card program is moving along smoothly, and that it shows like to the public that we're being very transparent in our transactions, right? Um, I also like that idea of using the rebates to pay on purchase orders, just so that you can get the rebate back from utilizing the P card, and also advertising it in invitations to bids and RFPs. I think that's just really great, to kind of let people know that, hey, if you want some prompt pay, because I know some vendors out there, they'll give even a prompt payment discount of like, you pay within 15 days, you get 10% off or something like that, right? I mean, like, it just depends on the solicitation or the vendor, but it's great to be able to get some back in more ways than one, right? So I think that that's pretty genius. So any other takeaways from the group, y'all? Like, I hope everybody in the audience got to either learn something new, or got a refresher, basically.
I think we all have a goal of getting as much spend on our P cards as you do. I'm like a third of what you guys do.
I want to be up there with WASDOT or Transit,
All
but
right.
come on.
We all
I think,
we all set each
yeah.
other up as the goal.
Happy birthday, Lori.
Thank
Yes,
you.
happy birthday.
Thank you.
Well,
And
thank you, everyone.
you ladies will also be presenting this at Forum, is that correct? No, not this year. Okay.
Not
Yeah.
this- we didn't
Not
get
this year.
selected.
Aw, that would have been awesome. Well,
Mhm.
thank you for sharing. Yeah. To follow up on Lisa, thank you for sharing with us.
Mhm.
Yeah, no problem. And if there are any other questions or concerns, don't hesitate, reach out. And we look forward to seeing you at either other future NIGP events, or at the next Lunch and Learn that is going to be happening in September. So stay tuned. If you like this one, you'll love the next one.
Yes.